So, our goal today is to discuss
when you have like a
relationships
layout
and marriage. So, in chapter 1 of our conversation, I
Yeah.
think we shall start with this.
And you know
if
what's
you're taking
funny?
notes, please.
You know, he makes fun.
1.1.
Yeah, he makes fun about this, but I tell him I think I would actually enjoy it. To have a conversation. I mean, God knows what's best. That's why he brought you into my life.
Imagine us having
But
such a conversation
I imagine
right now.
like having dinner and like we're just talking about Excel sheets, projections, what. It would. I think I would enjoy it, not in a bad way. But you think you say I would be bored, but now that God gave me the reverse.
But the beauty is, anyway,
We
you are
complement
stuck with
each
me
other. And you said
for
forever.
life. Hi there, I'm Timothy.
And I'm Rich Gold, and welcome to episode 12
of
Relationship Notes and Stories.
How have you been, honey?
Comparing. I'm joking. I'm
Still
fine, thank
comparing
you.
from last time up to now.
No, it's just a joke. I was just reflecting on our last conversation, but I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I am well. Someone called me funny, a comedian, as if a politician and a husband all in one, and that you don't need to go to comedy store.
Yeah, but you see what I was telling them is that now when I want to discuss the strategy plans, those 5-year, those questions you don't like, you now bring in comedy. It's not beneficial.
But haven't I changed over time? But are you also you're comparing me to other men?
No, I'm not comparing you to other men. We're different personalities.
Why did you hesitate there?
No, I'm saying we're different personalities. Like me, I will innately think about vision, where are we going, but when is the next plot? Come on, live once, die once. I'm like, so it's a difference in personalities, and then we blend and we, what they say, complement each other. And yes, over time you have.
But thank God that you didn't marry a person of your exact same type, because this would be the most serious. Like, even this conversation would be so serious. We'll be starting off like, welcome. So, our goal today is to discuss
when you have like a
relationships
layout.
and marriage. So, in chapter 1 of our conversation, I think we shall start with this.
And you know
if
what's
you're taking
funny?
Notes, please.
You know, he makes fun.
1.1.
Yeah, he makes fun about this, but I tell him I think I would actually enjoy it. To have a conversation. I mean, God knows what's best. That's why he brought you into my life.
Imagine us having such a conversation.
I imagine
right now.
like having dinner and like we're just talking about Excel sheets, projections, what. It would. I think I would enjoy it, not in a bad way. But you think you say I would be bored, but now that God gave me the reverse.
But the beauty is, anyway,
we
you are
complement
stuck
each
with me
other. And you said
for
forever.
life.
I know
Yeah.
that.
But last week we talked about comparison, and I think today we should talk about friendships. The friendships around us and how they influence our marriages.
Oh, because they could bring in the
relationships
aspect
as well,
of
when you're dating, how it affects you and all. Not necessarily because it brings in the aspect of comparison.
okay, but they're
just
your closest environment too. Okay.
I remember a quote I had recently, and for the Ugandans watching this, familiar with the statement "Tokubienyo." So let me
Statement or it's a question, by the way? I think it's a question. They're asking.
I think it's a statement. How do you recover from such a? How do you respond to that? A person will say, "Sikubienyo," but I watched something recently.
Translate it for our.
How would they say "Tokubienyo" in English so that it comes out?
Haven't you hitting someone so hard that they can't recover?
Okay, not because when you say it like that, it sounds like
not
a beating.
Physical.
But haven't you said something that's too direct? But anyway, to say it directly to the guys watching. So the statement was, now look at me forgetting because I was translating Tokubienyo. Yes, this was the statement, which makes me think about friendships and relationships. He said, if you look around you and you count 5 fools, you counted wrong. because you're the sixth fool. I don't know if you get. So he was saying, if you're hanging around 5 fools every single day, you are not 5, you don't have 5 fools. You are 6 fools because you're one of them. And so they said, your relationships around you determine who you are. I don't know what you think about that.
I mean, even it's very clear. Even the Bible says, "Bad company corrupts good morals." Like, there's an analogy my parents would say growing up. You can't have. Let me maybe just say it as it is, or ask you if someone is just imagine a staircase, and there's someone at the top, and you are at the bottom. The person at the top is trying to get you to the top, and and you at the bottom, you're trying to get the person to where you are. Who is going to have much ease in meeting their objective?
I just have to put
Don't
in
don't put in
variables.
science. No. Don't put
Of
in
course, the
science.
person who is down has a higher
Yeah,
chance.
yeah.
But if
And
the person up really went to the gym,
no,
they would have no challenge lifting you up
that's
to the
not the
top.
moral of the story. And growing
I'm
up,
just
I
looking
guess
at the big picture, looking at all the variables. If it was an Excel sheet, I would tabulate the data like that.
for an
break it down.
analogy, don't. It's not necessary right now. Anyway, but I guess you see what I'm saying, or what they were trying to show us even growing up, and helping us determine what kind of friendships we surround ourselves with. Is, does this person have similar values to yours? Are they going to bring, like, again, back to bad company corrupts good. Like, do not be deceived. It's a slow fade. You may not realize. I'm not saying don't love, or I'm not saying discriminate and all, but you know how you may have layers and boundaries. You can be an acquaintance to someone. Someone can be in your inner circle. Someone can be your sister, friend that becomes those friendships that just automatically transition to family and sisterhood with a strong bond, so that the way you treat that kind of friendship wouldn't be the same way you treat the other. And above all, love remains, extending the love of God to everyone. But in this scenario and situation where you're asking about friendships, I think it's important to be mindful of that analogy that I've been reminded of growing up. It's easier for someone down to pull you down.
True.
Whether it's a marriage, whether it's just friendship, what marriages are around you, and what are you listening to? If I'm listening to ladies or spouses in their relationships that are saying, I can't do this, I don't forgive, or what's in it for me, or you see how that will slowly start to be
Your portion.
my portion, and I'll start to listen to it. Before I know it, when we go through something, I'll ask myself, why should I forgive you? As opposed to having a conversation around other people who are saying, even the Bible says forgive. How many times? Like, so many times that, it's just something you do. So yeah, that's you. What do you think?
Okay, as you were speaking, a lot of thoughts crossed my mind. One is, how would you define a friend? 2, our friendships and relationships affect us and influence us. But sometimes you're influenced not even by friendships or relationships, but you're influenced by environments that you're in.
Yeah.
And then also probably a true test of friendship. There's something I listened to recently, and the guy said this, I can introduce you, I am very confident in introducing you to people who I respect and value because you're a good representation of me.
Yeah.
That is a friend who you aspire to, or probably who pulls you up.
Yeah.
But the same person also has friends who they may not be comfortable introducing to people who they respect and honor, because they're like, yes, you are my friend, but probably you're not the best representation of how I want to be presented.
Or my values, or my
values and all
yeah.
of that. And then I agree with you that, yes, we need to have the friends who are pulling us up and try and move away from the relationships that are pulling us down. But please, this is just for the purpose of conversation, okay? isn't it also nice to just have those people who are just there for, because they are interesting? I just have to be real. There are those people where you're like, I just have to go and chill with this guy because the jazz is going to be monumental. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think maybe me, I would look at it from two sides. There are friendships that I will build or nurture that affect my growth. Then there are friendships whom I will give into to also nurture so that they grow. These two kinds of friendships are different. How I treat, and then there are those where we are growing almost at the same pace. We're seeing eye to eye. The direction is the same. We speak the same language. There's not much, even though you've not seen them for a while, or you've not, but you're kind of moving in the same direction. So how you treat the friendships that are almost like giving, powering into you or mentoring you is different from the ones that you're mentoring. Because with the ones you're mentoring, you're pouring into them. You're saying, how can I add value to you? Or where do I see aspects where you need to, if I, for example, realize that this particular habit you have, you're impatient, or being truthful to you to say, I think you need to work on your patience, or identifying there are even certain conversations you can have with people and you realize that it's an issue to do with childhood trauma that triggers them and makes them act the same way. To be able to work with them, that they get out of that. It's different from the relationship that is powering into you, and it's also different from the relationship where you're kind of moving at the same wavelength, because those ones that you're moving at the same wavelength, you'll have similar conversations. Oh, what book are you reading now? What did you learn this week? How was this for you? Is this going well? It won't be a struggle.
I know you're saying that, and you'll be at the same wavelength, and the examples you're using, I hate to say this, but the standard that's present in the community today. If you asked a person, what's the favorite book that you read last year? If you asked a room of 100 people, very few will actually have a favorite book they have read, because people are not reading. I don't know if you get. And also, you're speaking about evaluating the relationships and friendships you have, understanding which level you're at, understanding where you're standing, and all of those things, which are very good. But sometimes people don't have, like in our marriage and relationship and all, I have learned some of these things from you. That's important to give very deep thought to some of your relationships and evaluate them and kind of
Really? Okay.
to put them on a mizani, on a weighing scale. Just
What
to
are you
compare.
saying?
No, I just had to show off that I know a few words in Uganda. But then the thing that I'm wondering is, how does, if let's say there's knowing that you need good relationships in your life, but how do you recognize that probably you are the bad relationship? Like
Are those the 4 people? Because you said that it's good to have certain people around you that are they really fun? Coming from what you said.
you will be they are really fun people. There are some people who are just really, for lack of a better
Plot.
word, vibes on vibes. I can tell you, if I introduced you to them, you'll be like, this is too much happiness. Okay, not happiness.
And then outside the happiness, then what happens?
Outside the happiness, of course, they have the serious part within them.
Okay.
But so what I'm saying is, if a person is, for lack of a better word, how do you recognize that you might be the poor person? How do you recognize you might be the rotten egg that's spoiling the broil?
Man, I think it has to do with introspection, but also feedback, because you can't be the person in the friendship, whether it's in a group of married couples or individual friends, and you're getting certain feedback or certain responses from different people, and you think that they're the problem. But it also takes a certain level of humility to sit down and to pause and say, have I done something? And if I have, am I able to come and ask you, awesome. Like, this is what played out, but did I hurt you? Or what part did I have to play? Or certain people are not open to certain conversations. And I think for me, one of my biggest, as I look back over the years, like for me, vulnerability is very key in a friendship, and transparency and honesty and that. So if I can't be able, if we can't be able to sit down and have tough conversations in this adulting that we are in, I don't know what we are doing. You know, to be able to come to you, because even in marriage, I mean, I need to be able to come to you and tell you, whenever you do this, you actually trigger me. And then ask myself, why is he triggering me? Why? And like 5 levels, or even more than 5 levels of why, the question why. And sometimes you look in introspect that I'm saying and growing up, this happened to me, or my guardian used to shout in this kind of way, or so whenever I hear someone raise their voice, it triggers me, and I will react to you, but what I'm actually supposed to be doing is realizing that this is a trigger. And once I know that, after I've done my introspection, and I come to you and I'm vulnerable enough to say, I'm dealing with this, I've identified that growing up, this and this happened. And because this and this happened, whenever we are having a conversation in our marriage and I feel like your tone is raised, or even in other friendships or even at work, I then get triggered to defend myself, to shut off, to, all those things. Then you're able to extend grace to me because you know that, oh, she's dealing with, but you see, it comes from vulnerability. But if I'm always in a scenario where that happens and I will play the victim,
Yeah.
I will just play the victim. You don't understand, and I shut you off, and I don't know how far you can go, even in the marriage, because you reach a point where your spouse can't even help you. First of all, you're the only one who knows yourself. So, and as the person, as I heal from that trauma,
Yeah.
you're able to support me. But if I can't identify, or if I'm not honest enough with myself, how will I then be honest with you, and how will you support me in that journey? That now, you're more cautious when we're having conversation, using the same example, not to raise your tone. And even ask, am I raising my tone? Or how are you feeling now? And then you walk the journey together. This is an example in a marriage, but it can apply to friendships as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have friends and you don't even know what they're going through.
You don't really know your friend.
You don't really know your friend. You just come, like you said, vibes. You're laughing, you're going, but you don't know that back at home they're struggling with something. You've not had
Sure.
a conversation
Sure.
to realize that I actually need to be there for her. We shouldn't be laughing. It's okay. She can come home and we can cry and pray about
Yeah.
whatever situation is going on. For me, that's real friendship.
I think what you're talking about and hinting on towards the end, and as you spoke, I realized vulnerability is a very pivotal aspect of both relationships and friendships. The question that is crossing my mind is, adult friendships are hard. They are hard to create. You need to put in effort to nurture them as well, because it's like I wanted to meet a friend of mine, but we took 6 months to meet, because I'm like, hey, we can meet this, can we meet on this day? And then as the day approaches, I have to suddenly travel up country. When the day comes that we have, he's out of town, and getting our calendars to sync up, you find like, man, we need to meet, and then you now have to end up using like a Google Calendar to just plan your friendships. It's no longer like when we were single, where you would say, man, where are you? Hey, I'm here, first come and have some meat, and we go and immediately link
Yeah,
up or something
yeah.
like that. But then you've also touched on a pattern which I don't want to skip over quickly in just stories, is the aspect of vulnerability. Like, I met a friend of mine who I had actually taken almost 3 years without sitting down and talking with. And he said when we met in the same restaurant, he was like, it has been 3 years, and for the last 2 years, we've been trying to meet. And we sat and we had a conversation from about 5:30 up to about 9. And it was such a honest and vulnerable conversation where I could ask him and tell him, I am really impressed with your weight loss journey. How did you commit to it? Because previously he was quite big, he had gained quite a bit of weight, and he opened up to me and I recognized, oh, this is what he was dealing with. And he also opened up to me and asked me and said, he's single and is in his late 30s. How is he going to find a person? And like those conversations are deep and nurturing, where you're peeling back from the people of vibes. I'm not saying that the vibes people are wrong. I'm saying there's a place for them because they bring happiness.
But they should also go deep.
But then, as you have those vibes,
Yeah.
you should now start peeling back the
Yeah,
layers
yeah.
and going into how are you really
Yeah,
doing?
yeah.
Because one of the most painful moments I remember recently, I had a person at work. Okay, I can't use that example because of the nature of my work. But someone I knew had a scenario where they had so many friends around them, but they were going through something and they had no one to talk to.
Which means no one knew.
No one knew. So I have friends for life and happiness, but I don't have friends for the realities of the life that I'm living.
It's not life and happiness. I have friends for
Vibes,
Sure.
happiness.
No, because it's not real life. You see, even as you adult, you just need to be real. Because life will not always have ups. But if I have a friend where I have to come and show face that everything is okay, and not call you over the phone saying, today just pray for me, things are tight, then what kind of friendship is that? Which leads me to asking.
Wait, I want to throw a spanner in the works from that same point. Vulnerability is a key aspect. Friendships and relationships are a key aspect. The question I will ask is, as a married person, how do you have both of those outside your marriage? Because I'm meant to be vulnerable with you. I'm meant to be open with you.
Yeah.
To also an extent where, like let's say if I have female friends and guy friends, you're more comfortable with the guy friends. The female friends you have a bit of,
Well, it depends. I don't think I've ever been like that with you in terms of female
of
friends.
course.
Yeah, I think which also ties
But
into
I'm
what I
just
was going
asking
to
it
ask.
because some people
I was
have
also
that.
going to ask you: do your friendships transition when you're coming from being single to when you're married? I think for me the answer is yes, because you're in different seasons. I'm not saying you drop them, or I'm not saying you terminate the friendship. I'm saying you need to cultivate relationships around you that are going through the same season that you're going through. Otherwise, you'll be in a scenario where you're the first person in your group or in your group of friends who are all single that is now married and dealing with the situations and the season of marriage, which can be very dynamic, and yet you still have single friends. So what they're going through is completely different from what you're going through.
Yeah.
And if I go to them for advice, one, they don't understand what I'm going through.
Yeah.
Two, even when they give me advice, it's from their perspective without experience.
True.
You understand? So then it can actually be very detrimental to your relationship. Because then, for instance, if we have a misunderstanding and I go to my single friend and I start even also the conversation around how much do you tell your friends? You understand? There's creating an accountability circle, a community where you can freely be vulnerable with to nurture and grow your marriage. But then there's going out and just sharing everything about your relationship and your spouse to every friend.
To every
which,
ear that's available.
you know, and especially let's imagine they're single, so obviously they'll tell you, no, how could you, no, you shouldn't forgive, don't even talk to him, just go home, actually come and stay over at mine. Do you see how it can start to affect your marriage, as opposed to, so I think we need to be very mindful of the friends around us, in whatever season of life we're in, and also I think for me this would be my relationship note, and not only in terms of even as a couple, we'll have friends, like I said, that community and spaces where we're vulnerable and safe to share and grow, but also as individuals in the marriage and individuals with our friends outside the marriage who are not couples, just individual friends. Am I growing as an individual? as virtual? Am I growing? Like, am I better? If a friend gave me feedback and said, you're not communicating as much as you should, or I feel like you're not letting me in, am I working to address those, back to the introspect, to address why do I have a wall up? How come I'm not transparent with this friend, and yet I'm saying they are a close friend? My temper, or whatever feedback you've gotten, to be able to address it as you're growing as an individual. Because when you grow as an individual, even your friend, like, you grow as the friendship, you'll grow even in marriage. You see, we
Sure.
come as two separate individuals, but you need to do your growth, I need to do my growth, and then we need to grow as a couple. But if I'm growing and you're not growing, we'll have a scenario where we're struggling
True.
to work together, and yet we are meant to work together and also grow as a couple.
Sure.
What do you have to say about that?
As a note or story, or
I don't know if you have a
I
story.
agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I think from what you're saying, and maybe I'll make it a note and maybe a challenge. Very many times in our friendships and relationships, we never create the opportunity to actually give feedback to a person on things that probably affect them. I don't know if that makes sense. Recently, I had the opportunity of moving with a friend of mine, and we were traveling up country, and we came back. And on the way back, I just had to tell him that I feel like he needs to pull up his socks. And he didn't take it with offense. But I told him that with love, I feel like you're not living to your full potential. And he gave me like he said, I asked him, what would you like to be doing 3 years from now? And his answer was so basic. It had no clear direction. It had no clear purpose. It had nothing. And I asked, what's stopping you from at least taking some of the steps now? And he's like, I don't feel I'm there yet. I don't feel like I need to go back and study and do this. And I'm like, but dude, you have all the opportunities in front of you to be able to try out some of these things and see if it's actually what you want to do. Why don't you give it a shot? Because he has those opportunities around him. And he was appreciative of the feedback, but I think maybe as friends, we should have it as a challenge with one another. Maybe use this time after watching this video to look out for like 2 or 3 of your closest friends and tell them how you really feel about them. Where can they improve? Where can they improve you? And if also they have something they would like to tell you, they get it off their chest and tell you.
Yeah.
So that way we are not, because it's very easy to be in that place of vibes. It's very easy to be both at the same level of the staircase, but then it's very easy with both of you giving each other feedback to grow one another and creating accountability at your level
Yeah.
and help you grow your relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True, but you see, what's key there is not only to give feedback, but even the person receiving the feedback. It takes a level of humility to walk up to your friend and say, I feel this way, and for your friend not to receive it. Because then if you don't receive it, then what are we doing?
I get it.
Because I will come from a place where I've shared the feedback, but it's not being received, so that it's almost like a dead end.
Yeah.
And that brings the aspect of, I know we're winding this up, but that's why it brings the aspect of, it's okay to have certain tough conversations in your friendships. Like you said, feedback. I ask you, you ask me, and when you make that part of the friendship, it's not a Q&A session. It's almost like, how are you doing? Oh, I'm sorry I didn't call you this week. It's been really busy. You're already up to date with this particular friend. Loves communication and loves, which should be really, it's the lifeblood of any relationship. And just being able to keep to keep improving without it being so scientific, because both of you are working at powering into each other. Both of you are working at growing each other. Both of you are accountable to each other, like you've raised, I'll challenge you, you challenge me, I give you feedback, it's tough, but you receive it,
Yeah.
and you take it in, and when I see you taking it in and getting better, I actually commend you, and and things like that. Otherwise, no man is an island.
True.
Yeah.
Catch you next time on Relationship
Notes
Notes
and
and
Stories.
Stories.